Just like what you see, under the blood, me say me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus cover me under the blood. Under the blood, me say me under the blood. Jesus, you be cover me under the blood. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood of Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me, I go break up. Put the blood on me face just like a makeup. Under the blood, under the blood, under the blood. Jesus cover me under the blood. Jesus, you will cover me under the blood. Stay under the blood. Under the blood. Under the blood. Jesus, you will cover me. Come on, this. Listen, Christian, I fight some things so them not see. Trouble demons and principality. My body and the temple, keep it holy, sanctified, justified, give God the glory. Fighting against streets and rebel enemy. The world Satan and myself against me. What the anointing pour it at me and let me trample in the morning. Say, under the blood. Under the blood. Jesus cover me. Drum and bass. Drum and bass. The physical man can't fight no demon. Fasting and prayer fi build up the inner one. Well anointed convert this in a man. Bind the demon, rip up Satan. How you follow the land with pure corruption. A warfare time, this a revelation. Thank Father God for giving me salvation. Fill me with the Holy Ghost, it is an inspiration. Say, under the blood. Under the blood. Under the blood. Under the blood. Jesus cover me. Under the blood. Jesus you will cover me. Under the blood. Say, under the blood. Under the blood, I'm say. Jesus, you will cover me. Under the blood. In the morning when me wake up, and the blood of Jesus me take up. And when me feel like me, I go break up. Put the blood on me face just like a makeup. Look here. This is Friday night. It's young people night.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking without this on. Hey, how's it going? So I'm getting started tonight with what I'm doing. I'm following the current events and trying to make sense of them with what I think is with the end times approaching fast and furious. So I'm going to kind of go over a big picture here. We're in this little lull, I think, in the Iran thing, but I don't think it's over by any means. And I'm gonna here in a minute go over a video and kind of react to it by someone who's not even doing the spiritual side of things. It's not someone who's a Christian necessarily. I just don't know, or cares about what the Bible has to say. But he's just looking at it from a geopolitical standpoint, what America's really trying to accomplish. And when I watch that, I'm like, "Whoa, that's just lining up with what I'm thinking biblically." So I'm seeing a lot of things, kind of dominoes about to fall. If it does fall, it doesn't happen until it happens. But seems to be a goal here in mind that overlaps with the biblical time frame, like what it describes. So let's go over that. What I'm the big picture here is how do we get to the firm covenant that let's see, he will make a firm covenant without going through all this again. I have this fully discussed in a video I did last week, but he will confirm this future Antichrist figure, confirm a covenant. It's also called a firm covenant, with the many, which is mainly Israel, but it could be many actors in the Middle East for 1 week. 1 7-year period, which I discussed last time. So, making sure, everything's working properly. So I'm going to start by first, I want to show this chart here I'm not going over this particular video from him. This is not who I was talking about that I'm going to be looking at, but I want you to see why a lot of people believe there's what's left in Iran now. You've knocked off the supreme leader. You don't know what's happening with his son, who's probably in a coma or dead and may have lost an eye or a leg or something. So they're basically knocked off the supreme leader part. So there's really no clear mullah, So now you're left with the IRGC, and we have been targeting the head of the armed forces, and we've targeted many members of the IRGC between we being America and Israel. But look, the army is something different. The army is the IRGC tries to control the army, but the army also has its own brain. They have their own. They're not necessarily always going to go with these guys. That's why they're separate. And none of these guys are dead. That's got to be intentional, right? Leaving these alive must be, where my cursor is, must be intentional. And that's because that's who, between these guys and the executive guys, I think Trump wants to talk to them. He's talking between these guys, I believe. Now, as we speak, as this thing's about to start, which is like probably any hour now, because it's Friday here, Friday, April 10th right now, but which is tomorrow, Saturday, and it's supposed to start Saturday. These guys are trying to get in on the discussions, and what's arriving there may be more than just who America wants to talk to. America basically wants to prop up the alternatives to the IRGC and the mullahs. The guys from the army, the leader of the army maybe, and the leader of the executive, and the parliamentary branch, who are mainly just puppets. But our goal is to let's make those puppets the real guys. Let's negotiate with them. That's who we're talking to, and that's who we say run the show. Whether that plan works or not, that's a big question. Probably not, but I know that's the goal. And if there could be a civil war between the Army and the IRGC, that would be great. But whether that's going to happen or not remains to be seen. But just showing you kind of how it's very interesting that these guys are left alive intentionally. The IRGC is the one being targeted, and the head of the military being targeted. These guys knocked out. Leave these heads alive. So there's that. Now I want to go over this guy's video in pieces. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. I think I'm just going to skip a little bit, but mostly watch it. So I like his point of view. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then I'm going to start telling you kind of what I think. I'm going to take what he says and put it into a biblical perspective, because they're very parallel anyway, and you'll see why.
Of ever recovering. And it goes in direct contrast to what you've been hearing on mainstream media, especially on the Western side of things. It definitely goes against what you've been hearing on TikTok, on social media, where you have been convinced for the past few weeks that Iran is winning this war. Now, it has nothing to do with how many warplanes or ships the United States military has destroyed in Iran. It has nothing to do with the military balance of power. It has everything to do with one little place called the Strait of Hormuz. The entire Western media is not reading the situation correctly. And here's how we got here. So everybody knows about the famous ultimatum that Donald Trump set for Iran. Basically, open the Strait of Hormuz or else I'm going to bomb bridges and power plants and send you back into the dark ages.
By the way, this video, he put this out today, so it's current.
So just as this ultimatum was about to expire, we heard about a deal for the next 2 weeks for a ceasefire, a temporary ceasefire brokered by the Pakistani government. Now, both sides would communicate and they're supposed to find a long-term solution. But whether this deal becomes a permanent peace or whether this deal collapses and the war continues to escalate, it does not change the final conclusion of this video. which is that Iran has already lost the war, no matter how this ceasefire deal plays through for the next couple of weeks, couple of months, or even couple of years. We have to cover everything. So number one, I'm going to show you Iran's own goal. It is one of the worst own goals I've ever seen being scored on the political global chessboard since I've been studying geopolitics. Number two, I'm going to talk to you about what's next. There's multiple scenarios. It's not just one thing. And I'm going to talk about the winners, the losers, and the potential outcomes of this Iranian situation. Now, what I do on this channel, and I pride myself of not taking sides. One of the things I hate the most about what from mainstream media, from Western media, from Eastern media, from no media, and that report is going to serve some financial.
Okay.
Started. Well, it depends on who you ask, essentially, right? A lot of people think that this war started because of a cover-up to essentially wash away the stench of the Epstein files. Now, I'm going to say maybe to this, okay? Another conspiracy theory is that Bibi Netanyahu and the Israelis are really puppeteering Donald Trump, and this is an Israeli conspiracy. I'm going to say maybe here, okay. But the one thing that these theories have in common, we have yet seen any evidence supporting any of those theories.
Neither of which are correct. This is not the real reason we're doing all this. There's way more to it than that. That would be silly.
It is pure speculation and it's pure assumption. Maybe is the best I can give you here. But I don't operate in maybes. And another rule I have is I follow the money, because most geopolitical decisions come down to money, come down to dollars, not the Epstein files and not some Israeli conspiracy. And when you follow the money, you actually see the pattern that I've talked about in my previous video. Donald Trump is working through a very specific plan. That plan is to suffocate the Chinese by taking away oil, because China has one major weakness.
So that's the key. And I'm bringing it back to this BRICS nation stuff. There's a 10-nation confederacy, okay, of politically called the BRICS. Even if you include both, even if you have Saudi and United Arab Emirates, they're kind of one block, those two. So it's still a 10. And I talked about that in my most recent video, a day or two ago. But this is the big deal. While we're dealing with Iran, we're also dealing with China, and we're also dealing with Russia. And without a doubt, just to review where I'm pulling this biblically, it's back in Daniel chapter 7. This is all the end time stuff we know. There's 10 horns on this beast, this wild beast in Daniel 7. Another horn, a little one, came up of this 10-horned beast, an 11th horn, and 3 of the previous horns were plucked out before it, 3 of the 10. And as it came up, it was coming up boasting, full of boasts, and arrogant. And it was a human. It represents a human. That's what that's trying to say. And it plucks up 3 as it comes up. And so I think the plucking up is neutering Iran and thereby China and Russia. And this guy's explaining it really well.
Which is
because of the Strait of Hormuz.
Not energy independent. They acquire a lot of oil, especially since they're the global factory, and that oil comes from outside. So that's why he did the Venezuela model on Iran, but Iran is much bigger, much stronger, and much more diversified in the centers of power. That is why Venezuela was an immediate fix, and now Trump owns Venezuela. But the idea here is China. China is the holy grail. Trump is trying to break apart the Chinese-Russian-Iranian alliance. Now,
Chinese-Russian-Iranian alliance. This guy's not a Bible prophecy guy at all. He's not well, I know he's not a Christian. He's not coming at it from that perspective. But he's seeing just a geopolitical alliance between these 3 that Trump, he just said, is trying to break up. How is this not... Can't put it that way. If we're living in the end times, how is this not it? If we're close to the end, how is this not it? It has to be it. It really does. We're running out of time for it to be anything else. So I really think we're kind of seeing this.
Iran is the weakest link in this alliance, that's not the problem. But if you take away China's ability to buy cheap oil from Venezuela and from Iran, you make it super dependent on Russia. And Russia and China are not actually good friends. They have a lot of animosity, they have a lot of beef, and when you make them absolutely codependent to the point there's no other alternative of energy provision, then you start internal beef. And the next step obviously will be Cuba, but that's going too far. He's working through a very specific plan. Iran is the link that you need to take away to squeeze China. And then you either break apart the Russian-Chinese alliance, or you make China so weak that it has to adhere to whatever Trump wants to do. But that...
Making China weak, that is plucking it up. That's essentially plucking it up, which is what this is saying. I was thinking about the horns. Another horn came up. 3 of the previous horns were plucked out before it. And the one coming up is boastful.
Is the stated goal. Now, from the stated goal to the achievement of said goal, the distance is great. And I'm not going to be sitting here telling you that the goal was achieved. This is not me dick riding anybody. If you look at it objectively, right, in order to achieve this goal, what Trump needs is one of 2 things. He needs to control Iranian oil and the flow of said Iranian oil to China. To do that, he needs either or a regime change, which he still did not achieve, or a policy change within the existing regime to cooperate with the United States. Also, not yet achieved. None of this is achieved so far. So as far as the stated goal of suffocating China,
I really like it broken down like this. You either change the regime from within and get a better policy, which you do by this process, eliminating the bad part and keeping the not so bad. They're still all pieces of shit. But you at least try to keep you try to get it to a better bunch to work with, put pressure on them and make them do it your way. That's a solution. I think Trump would be cool with that. Or you completely change the regime, which I think will ultimately happen personally, which will like speed along the piece that needs to happen over there to get us to the firm covenant. But you don't have, you could potentially pull it off just by getting not so hardliners in there. So this 2-week period is definitely trying to fish that out. It's a fishing expedition right now. It's like testing the water. That's all it is. Let's see if we can't grab the right fish, pull them up, and get them to do it our way. Or are we going to pull up one of these like turtles with it, and it's going to like mess it up and ruin it? And that may happen too. I don't know who's showing up right now at this negotiation. If some of these guys that are left alive try to come and stop these guys from making a deal or doing it their way, it's going to all blow up, and it's over with. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Tomorrow's a very important day, which is like happening now.
That hasn't happened yet. And that's why Trump is still there. Not because of any other reasons you have heard about. Okay? Number 2, look at this. Not really likely that this theocratic regime, and as I said right here, there's a lot of religious undertones, but also pragmatic survival. If this regime cooperates and yields to Trump, option number 2, what happens is, number 1, it doesn't make any sense from a Shiite perspective. Even the IRGC, who has now become the center of power in Iran, because the new supreme leader is nothing but a puppet, so now the IRGC is actually managing Iran and owning Iran. The age of the theocratic rule is pretty much over in Iran. But even the IRGC are heavily religiously motivated. So according to the Shiite world, it's going to be very, very hard. Maybe.
Okay, Shias are like 12er Islamicists, which means they have a line of leaders from Ali instead of the Umayyad dynasty, instead of the Ali. Sunnis are like the Umayyads. And the Shias want to trace it back to Ali, and then Hussein, I think, and then another guy, until it got to the 12th Imam. They never acknowledged the original caliphate that arose after Muhammad died, which was run by, like, I think Abu Bakr's buds. So that's the ultimate. It's who got to take over Islam is what the Shias have a problem with. But they think a 12th Imam is hiding in the desert, like had been they got to a 12th Imam, and then he's not going to show up until the end times happen. So if that's the core belief of that, not only current regime, but like not only the leaders, the mullahs, but also even the IRGC, if they all still think that, then they're not going to stop. As far as they're concerned, think of like Waco. Remember like the Branch Davidians in Waco? David Koresh, right? That was his name. They were wanting, like when they thought it was the end times in their little crazy theology. So when they got the ATF and FBI coming after them, they're like, this is it. This is the end times. And they just were going to go all the way till the end. It was not going to end well. It's a cult leader. Like when people start following a cult, which is what Shia Islam is, waiting for a cult leader to show up out of the desert. What did Jesus say? Remember the desert reference that Jesus said? No. I'm just thinking about this because they think he's out in the desert. If they say to you, behold, he is in the wilderness, some messianic figure, do not go out. Or behold, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe them. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man, the true Messiah, be. So he made it clear, like, don't believe people that think he's in a desert. In the end times, there'll be people who think he's in a desert. And in the end times now, who thinks he's in a desert, right? And a great religious figure appearing out of the desert to save them. They're trying to push that along with their apocalyptic chaos they're trying to make happen. So, it's inevitable. You can't reason with them.
Even impossible for these guys to yield to Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. Plus, they love the chaos. They love being the underdog. And they thrive in this environment, religiously speaking, of course. Number one is more likely. But number one, as far as regime change, so far has not happened. So whether it happens or not...
I do think they know that's probably what's going to need to be. And it's probably going to be Pavlovi. And this guy thinks so too.
The next few days, few months, few years, that has not been achieved. So the goal of Trump of blocking China and cutting the supply chain from Iran to China has not been met, okay? And it has nothing to do with what Trump is saying. Trump is giving all these speeches about, we destroyed their navy, we destroyed their air force, we're bombarding them, etc., etc. All is true.
It's all true, and it's all this. It's all this. It's all this, uttering great boasts. He's got to constantly boast. Part of that's strategy. You got to act like, you got to show the world you know what you're doing and you're having victories, but he's the perfect one to do it because he boasts like crazy.
Militarily speaking, the United States against Iran is like a Ferrari racing against a Yugo from the 1980s. It doesn't make sense. It's just a mismatch. If this was a basketball game in the hood, we would reshuffle the teams because it's just not fair. It's a bunch of NBA players playing against kids who've never touched a basketball, okay? Not the point. You're going to hear a lot of paid shills, a lot of useful idiots, and a lot of lazy analysts explaining, as they have been doing for the past few
and
years,
the media,
how Iran is winning this war.
You got crazy people on YouTube and then crazy people in the media doing everything to say the exact opposite of what's happening.
Because they're raising the prices of gasoline at the pump and they're squeezing out everybody, etc., etc., which is true. The prices of oil are coming up, the stock market is coming down, people are annoyed, inflationary pressure is going up, but none of this is long term, and the analysis is absolutely wrong because you cannot analyze geopolitics in months, probably not even in a year or two. When you're looking at geopolitics, unless you're a paid shill or an idiot, which a lot of them are, I'm not going to name names, but you exactly know what I mean. The lazy part is looking at 6, 12 months, 18 months forward, not seeing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here for Iran is quite alarming. I'll show you. So what happened with Iran? I'm going to explain this very, very briefly, okay? So Iran essentially...
Stacked in boxes filled with moments once cherished. Where do these older home movies belong today?
There. Over with.
Admitted to itself and to everybody in the world that it simply cannot win this war with conventional warfare. They don't have the firepower to match up against the United States and the Israelis. They simply cannot. So what they've elected to do is wage economic war to pressure the United States and the Israelis by raising the price of oil. Okay? That is all it is. The reason Iran can do it is because they hold the choke point, at least one choke point, which is right here, which I'm sure you heard this name before, called the Strait of Hormuz. It's located right here. A lot of it is, by the way, owned, well, not owned, but borders with Oman. But Iran also holds this part, which means that Iran quite easily can blockade this passage. All you need is a couple drones and a couple grenades, and no shipping company will ever take the risk of trying to sail through here. It's a very narrow point, and it's a huge squeeze, and that's why crude oil is now north of 100 climbing up, because Iran has been squeezing this. The other thing is that Iran has already announced they're going to squeeze the second choke point we have right here, called the Bab el-Mandab, near Yemen. This is another choke point
That's too close to Babel. That's too close. But it's a sign, dude.
leads all the way to the Suez Canal next to Egypt. But if you block these two, by the way, the reason Iran can block this one is because Yemen isn't a real country anymore. It's been absolutely annihilated, and Iran loves to step in these vacuums, arm paramilitary groups, which they have, called the Houthis, and now Iran owns Yemen, owns Lebanon, owns parts of Iraq, etc., etc. But in Yemen, what they can easily...
Yeah, look at this. Iran is basically here with the Houthis. It's basically here in the Hamas, in the Gaza, and it's basically up here in Lebanon. So Iran is in multiple places. This is all, Iran has tried to surround Saudi and the Israel. It's basically what they've done. It's all strategic, if you can see that. That's a strategic thing. And they've got this and they've got that, where oil has to go. So we're going to talk about here this pipeline that needs to be built. They already have one, but it's not big enough. It can't carry near enough oil compared to what goes through here. And all this oil, 20% of global oil, but like 50% of Chinese, I think. It's like Chinese relies way more on this than they do. We do. We leave like less than 1% do we rely on this. And then Venezuela also was cheap oil for both Iran and China and Russia, and we stopped that. So all this is hurting the alliance, of the three that Trump's got to take out.
You do is block this part, and then you block essentially 40% of the global traffic of oil, spiking prices north of 140, 150, okay? And that is going to be very bad for the stock market. It's going to be a lot of pressure, etc., etc., okay? But I want you to think in decades. Don't think in 12 months period. What we have here essentially is...
Think in a 7-year period, a decade type, right? Like he's saying.
Is somebody taking a hostage during a robbery. Right now, assume Iran, in this analogy, is the armed robber. They're armed with a gun, and now they've taken a hostage, an innocent civilian, and now they're faced with 500 policemen, all with guns aimed at them at the entrance to the bank. And now we have a standoff, right? There's no way this one robber with one gun can match up against 500 policemen with machine guns and SWAT equipment and helicopters. There's no way. But that robber has one leverage, which is the hostage. The hostage keeps the robber alive, equalizes the playing field, because nobody on the police side wants or is willing to take any action that's going to actually hurt the hostage. As long as the robber has the hostage, he has leverage and he can negotiate with the police. The minute the robber decides to shoot the hostage, that leverage is gone. It will.
Which is why they said we're doing this 2-week pause so we can get the strait open, but it's not been opened all week. Iran's still holding on to that because that's their hostage. They cannot actually let go of it.
Never be brought back up, because once you kill that leverage, you have nothing. All you have is one gun against 500 armed policemen, and with the dead hostage, there's literally nothing that you can do. Iran has held the closure of the Strait of Hormuz over the head of their neighbors, whether it be the UAE or the Saudis or Qatar and the entire region or Kuwait. But they've essentially told their neighbors, hey, we're going to be the neighborhood bully, and you're going to play nice with us, and you're going to let us get away with a lot of stuff that are nasty, because if you don't play nice, well, your only way out for your oil is right here, and we're just going to block it. The only way the UAE, the Saudis, and the Kuwaitis and the Qataris can send gas and oil is through the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran blocks it, they all block. They all can't make money. So the squeeze is double, both politically, geopolitically, globally as far as the price of oil, but also the entire Gulf region is unable to export oil, and that is economic terrorism, pretty much. And because of this threat, everybody tried to play nice with Iran. Well, Qataris, obviously.
This is why it's not been the natural choice of Qatar and Saudi to play nice, but they just kind of were stuck before this war. After this war, man, they're like, Iran will do this. Before, it was just a threat, so they just kind of went along with it and just try to get along, and nothing was stopping, and you have this strait, but it was tenuous. And now you see what they do when you piss them off. And now they're like hornets, right? Like once you tick off a hornet nest, you're never getting that unticked. You got to eliminate the hornet's nest. They're going to always, at the smallest little thing, you can't just let things can never go back to the way they were after this now. You have to finish it. These guys know they got to finish it. Trump knows it. Israel knows it. Everybody knows you got to finish this, or they will be worse than they were before. Just like when Jesus said, if you cast out a demon, but you don't replace it with God, something good, it will bring back 7 worse ones. Now you've done that. Now you got them stirred up. They're never going to trust anybody again. It's only going to be far, far worse. So that's what is the most concerning about it. If we were to lose our political will on this, then that would be the worst. I just don't see Trump losing his political will. He's just going to do it. So that really does not worry me. It's, it looks to me like it's happening according to a biblical plan anyway. But even politically, he's not going to give up on it because too much is at stake now. And these guys will always hold this over your head. And they'll continue to cause economic terrorism because they see what happened. Now they gotta look at it too. And if you let them win this, now they know they've got even more power over these guys. You just can't let it happen. It's the way it is. Sorry. Everything's changed now. These guys won't let it happen. Saudi won't.
Try to be their best friends. The Saudis have tried to make deals with them across the years, try to get friendly, but everybody respected this threat. But because they've never actually acted upon this threat seriously, they closed it here and there, but they've never done this, complete closure, and they've never really actually bombed their neighbors, etc., etc. Now, they've blocked this place up, okay? Now it's blocked. It's 100% blocked. And they're only letting their ships pass, Chinese ships and their ships, and they're making lots of money. So the Western media is telling you, well, the Iranians are making more money than ever because oil prices went up and they're actually exporting their oil from here without a problem. Sure, but it's nearsighted. It's very short-sighted. Yes, they'll make a few couple more bucks, whatever. But guess what happens? You think that the Saudis, the UAE, and the Kuwaitis, and the Qataris are just going to allow this to hover over their head when all of this is over? So that...
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They're not going to... If this were to end and Iran's not handled... They're not going to, no one can let this hover their hands again. Now that we see what happens. Now they bombed them. What were they thinking? I don't know why they would bomb them. It was stupid.
Iran can do it again? Think about it. What is the one thing Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi, and the UAE, what is the one thing they have plenty of? Literally plenty of, endless money. Okay? The Gulf countries have a cheat code. Imagine it's a video game. They can literally click a button and create endless amounts of money like back in the old games where you could just do a money glitch and get like gazillion dollars. That's literally what they are. So if you have endless money and you have endless oil and Iran has showed you they're willing to kill the hostage right here, what you're gonna do? You're gonna figure out a way to eliminate this threat. Now, you cannot do it militarily because, again, all you need to block this is a drone with a grenade. It's very hard to stop. So what's going to happen is all these countries are going to figure out what's the next best thing. Well, if we're not able to use this, and if Iran is going to use this as leverage over our heads for the next 20 years, we have to get away from here. How? Well, the Saudis have already figured it out a long time ago. They actually built a pipeline going from one coast to the other all the way to the Red Sea. Right here. The capacity, this is Saudi, by the way, this whole thing, it's massive, right? The capacity of this pipeline that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb the second closure point, which is currently now being threatened as it's going to get closed by the Iranians, right? And when I say the Iranians, I mean the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people, who I absolutely love, but no beef with the Iranians. But again, the Iranian regime are known dirtbags, right? So the Iranian regime is saying, well, we're going to close this as well. So the Saudis have a pipeline. The pipeline capacity right now is small, about 7 million barrels a day. It's not enough. It's not enough to offset the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, but 7 million actually flow from one coast to this coast, and then it gets uploaded to ships, and then it sails through here, which is actually the Suez Canal right here through the Red Sea. Pretty simple solution, right? So what the Saudis are going to do is two things. Number one, they're going to expand this pipeline heavily, and they're going to work with the Kuwaitis, with the Qataris, and with the UAE. All are going to pay for this, and this pipeline is going to get expanded like you've never seen before. Everybody's going to pay for it, and it's going to actually bypass this whole kerfuffle right here. So the oil is going to flow all the way from the Gulf countries, all the way to the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to figure out, hey, we don't really have a beef with the Israelis right here. And the Israelis have a coastline in the Mediterranean. So even if the Suez Canal is open today, but maybe tomorrow something happened in Egypt, maybe we have terrorists right here closing the Suez Canal, maybe it's another choke point right here, right? Why don't we do this? We build an extra pipeline from here, and instead of only relying on the Suez Canal, we're going to open up a second pipeline connecting the existing pipeline to the Israeli port on the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah, that's very important. So the end game here that I think would involve a grand deal for peace would be to knock these guys out. That would then allow for us to control what comes through here while this is getting built. We're controlling this, and we can hurt China and Russia in the process. It only helps us against those two. So we have that advantage by giving it back to the Saudi, or, Oman, Qatar, whoever is going to be involved in us monitoring this. Then we can control how much they get. Like, now we have control. So we've basically neutered them. The minute China gets out of line, let's say if they wanted to attack Taiwan or something, we choke them out. China's screwed if we win this war. But that's exactly what's supposed to happen. 3 are getting knocked out. 3 of the 10. So they're going to get knocked out. So I think this is how. This war controls this, which knocks them back. And by default, Russia as well. Because they're all in alliance. When this goes down, it messes up the other two. So with 1, you get 3. That's my opinion. And then you make a peace agreement between the Arabs. Now there's no... Who's causing the Palestinian situation? Be honest. Is it the Israelis or is it the Iranians? It's the Iranians. It's the Shias. The enemy of both Israel and Sunni Islam. The Shias. They're the one disrupting the entire Middle East. They are the problem. You get rid of them, you create peace. You can have a new regime, hopefully the Shah. He talked about the Cyrus Accords combined with the Abraham Accords that's already been started involving Israel and them. So Israel and Arab forming an alliance through their accords that are only going to continue. This is just phase 2 from Trump's first term. Trump didn't get to be president for 4 years because God was timing it out differently. But this was the plan for an 8-year presidency of Trump. So it's right back on the way it was always planned to be. So you make a grand peace agreement. So that's got to be the next phase. The minute Iran goes down and gets itself replaced with a more agreeable regime, whoever it is, you make peace in the Mideast, and you create this situation where everyone benefits. And everything calms down. You don't have a Palestinian crisis anymore because these guys got out of it. I promise you, there won't be a crisis anymore if these guys get out of it. And if Hezbollah is no longer there, and Lebanon settles down, that's what everybody's kind of afraid of because in Israel they've got no enemies, really. But no enemies means you don't have a reason to go expand either. So they won't have any reason to. Don't give them a reason to. Calm it all down, then they'll just stay there. That is what's going to happen. Israel doesn't expand to greater Israel until the Messiah comes back anyway. We all know that. That's prophetic. It's not a real concern right now. And when it is a concern, it's not a concern anymore because you've got Jesus Christ in control of it. Not in Israel like we know it today. A future that's controlled by Jesus. So it's a different scenario. Everybody will be happy with that, I promise you. There won't be this ulterior motives that everybody questions each other. But this money maker, follow the money, right? That's what's gonna. It makes everything calm down. Even the EU and everything. Everybody's gonna be happy with this, and Trump will look like he saved the world. I mean, you might think I'm being a shill for him. I think he's the Antichrist. But it'll come off as to people who care, to people who don't have an agenda. It will be a success. The media the globalist media is always going to resist him because that's the harlot. They're always going to resist him. So the media is never going to give him credit. But the people that matter will see it and they'll give him credit. Especially Saudis. They like Trump. The new Iran will like him. Israel likes him. Like this part of the world is gonna like him. So especially if this pulls off.
And that port is going to receive this oil, put it on tankers, but also continue to build pipeline underwater and actually get all the way to Greece and then all the way right here to EU. So what the Saudis, the UAE, and the Kuwaitis and the Qataris are going to do, essentially, they're going to build a pipeline. This part is going to be underwater. That's going to expand the existing 7 million barrels, but also build a massive pipeline all the way to Europe. The only thing that's preventing this pipeline from happening for the past 40 years is the fact that this pipeline has to go through the Israelis. And right now, everybody is saying, well, look, Israelis are not a good PR move for us because in the Arab world, as the Saudis, we are the leaders of the Arab world. What will people say? You know, unpopular kings tend not to survive, etc., etc., etc. But when the threat is so big from Iran and when the Israeli situation has now gone second grade and the Iranian threat has become so much greater, the Saudis and their neighbors will all basically say, you know what, the Israeli thing, the PR damage, we'll take it. It's going to take 10 years to build this thing anyways. By that point, who knows what happens? All of them have been pushed by Iran by killing the hostage into the Abraham Accords. Right now, the UAE has Abraham Accords.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the Abraham Accords. I didn't see this whole video. I just saw up to that about 5 minutes ago. Yes, that is it. So like before, like everything has changed now. Trump forced it to change. It will never go back to the way it was. And now it'll just get pushed toward a confluence of things that leads to a firm covenant. Leads to this is around the corner. That's why I named my video this way. Confirm a covenant. That's in some translations says a firm covenant with a many for 1 7-year period. A period to build. A period to build. Part of it is this peace comes through monetary security. Financial security brings peace.
Accords, but now Qatar.
Who best knows it than Trump? And then who will build a monument of it? A construction site. But Trump in the Middle East, the temple.
And the Saudis will sign Abraham Accords and they'll build this pipeline all the way to Europe through the Israelis. What happens? The Israelis get their leverage, they actually have the pipeline, they get their money, and they become friends with the entire Gulf except Iran, building a coalition against Iran, isolating Iran even further. So geopolitically, financially,
Though if it's a new regime in Iran that's favorable, even better. It's total peace. And really that's what the Antichrist brings. He brings an amazing peace that people have to say, this is like unbelievable. Give him credit where credit's due. And then he gets the worship. And then it just starts. And then his head goes crazy.
Everybody wins except Iran. That's what happens when you kill the hostage. Okay? Now, Iran's isolation is going to increase by 2035 like you haven't seen before. And the reason is quite simple. Number one, we're going to have an alliance between the Gulf countries, the Israelis, and the EU because everybody wants the oil to flow without interruption. And they know if they get out of Iran's thumb through this pipeline, it's going to happen. And it's all going to be secured and sponsored by the US, which also benefits from cheap oil. But also what happened is that the relevance of the Bab el-Mandab and the Hormuz Strait actually declines, which means Iran loses leverage. But the other thing that people forget, that the economy in Iran is in a massive decline. We're talking about an economic collapse. The reason that the protests in Iran started just a few months ago is because of economic issues. It's because there's no lights and there's no food. It's very, very simple. They have a drought
and no
water.
No water.
There's economic decline and there's social unrest. After this war is over, at some point, even if the regime survives, these things combined with that thing are pushing the Iranian regime into implosion. So it's not about when, it's not about if, it's about when. The Iranian regime has already collapsed. It just doesn't know it yet.
They will collapse. They're collapsing. They are dead in the water. When Iran goes, China goes, Russia. It's just like dominoes. Like, once you ruin that alliance, you kind of ruin those three. Take one out, you ruin the other.
There's no way out of this. Nobody's going to give them money. Nobody's going to help them. And their value, by getting decreased right here, their value as friends to the Russians and the Chinese declines. The Russians and Chinese not going to help them if this is no longer a pressure point on the United States and the Europeans. So whether Trump gets this done or not, as far as the China angle, the Iranian regime has already lost it. There's no way back. You cannot resuscitate the hostage. It's gone. If you enjoyed this video, thank you. Tell your friends.
Anyway, does that not summarize what we're seeing and what the Bible predicted? Does that not? I swear, man. Every day it's something else. Every day something's, advancing. I just get more insight every day. This guy is showing the China thing just today. This is another video from a few hours ago where people are talking about this. BRICS News. Okay.
Well, take a look at this news report that just came out just moments ago earlier today. Ladies and gentlemen, China, earlier this morning, has just authorized their Chinese state refineries to begin using oil reserves amid an energy crisis. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, China has actually been putting massive pressure on the Iranian regime to cut a deal with the United States and bring this war to an end. Simply put, China is running out of oil and they need the Strait of Hormuz to reopen immediately. They are facing an energy crisis. They are now tapping into their strategic oil reserves. They don't have an infinite amount of reserve oil. The clock is ticking for China and the Chinese economy. In fact, I think it's
and that's just being reported now today. They're having to go into their oil reserves. So, this is the point. It's coming from all sides. Like, multiple sources here are telling me the same thing. I'll see what else he says for a second here until he may go on to something else.
Fair to say that other than the Iranian regime itself, China, the CCP, has actually been the single biggest loser of this entire conflict. And now they're getting desperate, very clearly so. But we also got this report today, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to take a look at this. China has been pushing Iran to seek a ceasefire with the United States, the Associated Press reports. Like I said, China is now applying whatever pressure they have on the Iranian regime, saying, listen, hey, our economy in China is imploding. We are running out of oil. You, Iranians, you had better work out a deal with the United States of America because we need that Hormuz reopened. We are getting negatively impacted now by this more than anybody else. Open that damn strait, is what the Chinese are saying to the Iranians. Breaking news, China, there's another angle here. China allegedly has pushed Iran to agree to a ceasefire with the United States in a desperate attempt to win favor with the Trump administration. Xi Jinping aims to convince President Trump that Taiwan is a breakaway province of China in their meeting next month. Next month, Trump is flying over somewhere in Asia to go meet with Xi Jinping, a one-on-one in-person meeting negotiation.
I didn't know about that. That's crazy. I know.
you kind of see around the restaurant, tons of art. We relate that.
And of course, China's right now, their biggest aspiration is to retake Taiwan. They want Taiwan to not be an independent country. They want it under their control. Now, here's the problem for the Chinese. Here's the problem for the CCP and for Xi Jinping. Of course, Trump is not going to take the bait. Trump is not going to agree to allow the Chinese, Xi Jinping, to try to take control of Taiwan. Of course not. Trump's entire geopolitical MO, his entire objective is to shut down Chinese expansionism, not to allow and turn a blind eye.
So, multiple people are thinking the same thing who have no insight biblically, but they're all seeing those two are linked. Iran and China are linked together, and Russia's not far behind.
To Chinese expansionism. As all of you know, we have a very smart audience here. Almost every single geopolitical maneuver that Trump has engaged in over the last 14, 15 months since stepping back into the White House in January of 2025 has been aimed at shutting down China and pushing back on Chinese expansionism. Panama Canal, Greenland, Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, all of this stuff, really in a roundabout way, either first level or second level, is targeted at shutting down China and pushing them back, okay? In fact, there's something I want to show you, ladies and gentlemen. China today just got some more bad news. Latin America, pull this up. Latin America has finally awakened to the Chinese threat and is now pulling back at China's Silk Rope, as it's put. Bolivia has imposed controls on China's zinc mining operations. Chile has frozen a proposed submarine cable project with China. Honduras is seeking to restore diplomatic ties with Taiwan in direct defiance of China. Both Argentina and Peru have opted for US-made F-16 fighter jets rather than continuing to purchase Beijing's JF-17 fighter jets. Ladies and gentlemen, are all of these Latin American countries choosing to do this on their own, or are they responding to pressure from who? President Trump. President Trump has spent the last 15 months building out relations with all of these Latin American countries.
He's doing all this.
This is the Monroe Doctrine, perhaps better known these days as the Donroe Doctrine, the Western Hemisphere from South Pole to North Pole, North America, South America. This is our hemisphere. This is the hemisphere of the United States of America. Nothing is going to happen in this hemisphere without our approval and direct say-so. So Trump is saying, listen, Latin American countries, you would be much better off working with us, the Americans, rather than the Chinese. They said, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe Trump had to apply a little bit of pressure, but nonetheless, Latin American countries are now turning to us, the United States, rather than China. China is getting boxed out. It was under the Joe Biden administration that China really was spreading their tendrils, their CCP.
So through multiple ways, we're taking down that horn of the 10. I think I'll probably kind of leave it there, but it's just like, as I see things, I'm going to be jumping up here and documenting it for my own channel, for my own posterity. I don't care if anybody's watching it or not. But, track this. Go back and look. We'll see. But I think we're on a roller coaster, but we're on a track. It's going to take us there. And it's happening quick. So I'll be watching and I'll be throwing my 2 cents in as we go. If I leave it there tonight. See y'all.